Hey everyone, this is the story on how I built a roguelike in just 1 week for Unity Jam 2. Yep, you heard that right. Technically, it's 25 hours of coding, testing, and creative problem solving. Let's dive into the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Before I started coding, I spent some time brainstorming. I jotted down ideas and mapped out a plan. Initially, I had grand plans for a top-down isometric beat-em-up, but early tests quickly showed that the mechanics were way too ambitious. So, I pivoted. Enter the click-based roguelike. This change not only made development more manageable, but also kept the gameplay accessible and fun. My first session was all about testing movement and placeholder art. I quickly ran into a big issue. The player character was sliding uncontrollably across the screen. It took a few tweaks in collision detection and physics settings, but I finally got it under control. Lesson learned. Early prototyping is key, even if it's just a mess at first. Next up was the camera. I noticed that moving the camera caused parts of the tile map to vanish. After a bit of head scratching, I discovered I was accidentally altering the Z value of the camera. A quick fix, a small gap between the camera and the tile map, and we were back on track. Originally, I had planned for 8 directional movement, but that would have doubled my animation workload. So, I decided on 4 directional movement. The result? Simpler animations and a more focused development path. Sometimes, less is more. With player movement sorted, it was time for enemy AI. I toyed with the idea of an advanced panic mechanic for the king character, but I ultimately simplified things. Now, enemies just follow the king from the center, and combat is as straightforward as a click to attack. You click, enemies take damage, and that's it. Simple, effective, and perfect for a game jam setting. After getting the core mechanics down, I focused on polishing. I added a red flash effect when enemies got hit. Although it ended up darkening the sprite a bit more than I expected, it still communicated that satisfying feedback. I also diversified enemy types: slimes for basic melee, ranged enemies with projectile attacks, and heavy hitters who were slow but packed a punch. To keep gameplay dynamic, I implemented an enemy spawner that only generates foes outside the camera's view. Balancing difficulty was a real challenge with limited playtesting. I settled on 3 roguelike progression mechanics: increasing the king's max HP, healing, and boosting damage. Ideally, I'd have added more upgrades, but time was really tight. In the final stretch, I wrapped up the UI, adding a health bar, win or lose screens with restart options, and even some 2D lighting effects. Sound effects and background music from freesound.org rounded out the experience. It was all about that final polish, turning rough ideas into a coherent playable game. Reflecting on the project, here's what went well. I managed to create a fully functional roguelike in just 1 week. Keeping the mechanics simple prevented scope creep. And the challenges? Debugging animations and refining attack mechanics took longer than planned. Balancing difficulty without extensive playtesting was a constant headache. So, what's next? If I expand this project, I'd add more player abilities, enhance enemy AI, introduce additional enemy types, and improve the UI and sound design. Despite the time crunch, I'm proud of what I accomplished. This project forced me to iterate quickly, manage my scope effectively, and refine my development workflow. I also got 8 plays out of 37, which is not bad. If you want to try out the game, the link is in the description. Before we wrap this up, here are 3 of my personal favorite games from the Game Jam. Rock Paper Society is a unique game where you play rock, paper, scissors with power-ups to gain power over society. II Captain is a deck builder pirate game where you have to reach the treasure by using your cards. Kick Orb is a game about kicking chickens that is controlled by colored orbs. Try out these games in the link in the description down below. Thanks for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and subscribe for more game development content. I'll see you in the next video.
First move, first step, listening to 2-step, passing with your 2-step. If it matter who else, you're the one that I want, you're the one that I need. We're destined to be.